All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report Town Hall session. I see a lot of your feedback. We are running some of them underneath your screen. We'd like to know how you remember Moi. That's the hashtag is Monday Report at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. 22422 is SMS line. I'll sample some of them as well during this broadcast. I see the microphone is back there. Very briefly, let's start. Where's the microphone? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Mimi naitwa Salim Ganga. Nakumbuka kwamba siku yangu ya kwanza kumwona mheshimiwa Rais Daniel Arap Moi ni mwana Mwanyani Machakos. Wakati ambao alikuwa anajaribu kuzuia mmonyoko wa udongo. Nikaona amegongwa kidole na mawe akitupa hizo kwenye gabions. Alafu akakata nguo akafunga kidole na kitambaa. Mimi nikaona ikiwa ni mambo ya ajabu sana kwa sababu ni rais wa nchi na anafanya kazi na watu wengine bila kujali, na alipoumia hakutafuta salt tape.
Okay.
Hakutafuta elastop. Alifunga na kitambaa na kazi kaendelea.
Okay.
Moi nilimheshimu sana kwa sababu nimeona alichukua nchi kama familia yake mwenyewe. Moi ndio rais wa kwanza Kenya ambaye aliamrisha wanawake wapewe vitambulisho, ambaye nakumbuka Julio Jambo na Nyipa Mwenda, Grace Ogot walifanya kama miaka 5 parliament bila vitambulisho. Hata kuchukua mshahara lazima aandamane na bwanake ndio apate mshahara na ni yake. Kwa hivyo nikamwona kama ni mtu ambaye anapenda equality.
Okay.
Wakati aliingia kwenye utawala na 1978, mwaka wa 79, 80, 81 na 82 alikuwa ameleza over 4,000 schools. Kiasi kwamba alikuwa anataka watoto wasome. Ni mtu ambaye alikuwa anakaa kama mja Mungu kwa sababu alikuwa anajiforce mpaka unakimbia ndio akupatie kitu weko mfuko yako.
Okay.
Wote ambaye alikutana na Moi anaelewa kwamba alikutana na mtu wa watu.
Okay.
Ukweli wa mambo, mimi baada ya muda nilikuja nikaanza kumuona kama mtu mbaya kulingana vile ambaye nasikia watu wakisema kwamba ni mkoloni. Lakini wakati ambaye nilikuja kuona rais wa pili ambaye ni mheshimiwa Emilio Moi Kibaki, nikaona Uhuru Kenyatta, ndio niliona tofauti. Kwa sababu huwezi kujua tofauti ya kitu moja, lazima uone vitu mbili ama tatu.
Okay.
Mimi wale nimeona na hao watatu vizuri, ambaye nilitambua kwamba Moi ndio the only president in this country ambaye alifanya kazi na kujitolelea na roho moja.
Okay.
Asante.
All right. Here. Okay. Very briefly.
Thank you, Trevor. My name is Kenyanjui, and I'd like to condole with the family of the late President Toroitich Arap Moi. Kwanza mimi nilimjua kwa sauti. During our times, hakukuwa na radio nyingi na TV. At least corruption tulianza shule juu ulikuwa na corrupt watoto wa walimu. Kule kulikuwa na TV. Uende uone Moi. For the first time kuona Moi ilikuwa 1983 kwa TV. Kumwona kwa TV kwa umbali. But when I started concentrating kuna vile anafanya, kulikuwa 1988 wakati mheshimiwa Ken Matiba aliresign na akaanza kuitisha vyama viwili. Hapo ndipo nianza kuconcentrate na Moi, na nilikuwa najua Moi akikasirika ulikuwa tunajua sababu hakuwa anaficha. Alikuwa anasema the same day unajua kuna kitu imefanyika. Kama kuna siku nakumbuka alikazilishwa na mzungu mwingine alikuwa anaitwa David Lamba. David akasema kuna mzungu mwingine juzi anaitwa Robert Shaw. Alisema if I was an investor I could not invest in Kenya. Na mimi nasema nyang'au kwenda. Kwa hivyo tunamkumbuka kwa mambo mingi, lakini kwa umoja Kenya alikuwa mzalendo, sababu alikuwa anakiomba sana wa Kenya wawe wazalendo. Okay. Na alikuwa akipenda michezo.
Sawa.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, very briefly, you have the microphone with you. Go ahead.
My name's Wanyama Chris.
Yeah.
Me first I met Moi. I remember when I come from Busia. When he went for mass choir, he was visiting Busia. I remember very well. We went there. The second encounter, we used to go to State House during the Kanu's time before him campaign. But I have this to say about Moi. I remember him talking about issue of multi-party.
Yeah.
And he said multi-party would bring tribalism. But truly, we have seen these parties have brought tribalism. During Moi's time, we had strong people from most areas. Like in Luyaland, we had Mudavadi, who was a strong person in the cabinet of Moi.
Yeah.
In Nyanza, we had Ezekiel Yogi, Aringo, strong people in cabinet of Moi. In Mombasa, we had Sharif Nasir. It was spread all over. And now, this era of multi-party, we are seeing tribal outfits. We are seeing governments that are packed to the senior cabinet coming from one region. There's no, like, the spread of the country, the unity of the country is not being seen anywhere. So I think when Moi was saying, multi-party taleta ukabila, he was very true. Okay. And when he said also, siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya, pia was very true. Okay. The politics we are seeing in this country currently is, I think, it's not something to be proud, and it's nothing somebody to say that he fought for. I think if there's somebody who fought for such politics we are having, or about party we are having in this country, then he fought for zero. Thank you.
All right. Very briefly.
My name is Abdul Rahman Busera Mohammed.
Yes.
For me, I think my understanding of Moi is a man who understood time and what needed to be done.
Okay.
And he was a disciplined guy, and he dealt with situations in according to the circumstances. Pole Reverend Joya, but I think the language of God is also the language of resistance. So you resist your enemy, then he flees from you. So if you are combating with Moi, then he also had to do what needed to be done. No. But on the other things, like where they say he brought, I don't know, milk and what, that one, I think he was just taking credit for that which never belonged to him. KCC, I think, was a government parastatal. So if something was coming from there, it was through taxpayers' money. So for me, Moi was a good man, and he also had another side, but maybe because of the circumstances.
Okay, got it. I can only take two more, very briefly. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Ongeri. Yeah. I never had an experience with Moi, but I went to Moi University, and I used to come there, and I used to see him. I never interacted with him, but I had an opportunity to listen to him. And I'm glad today that I have a panel of people who had an interaction with him. But my question is this. I've heard people talk about the growth of the political space. We have seen a gradual clamor for constitutional reforms. Yeah. There was something that began in multipartyism in 1991. Then we had another clamor for change in 1997. We had the Yashpal Gai Commission in the year 2000. Yeah. We had the Wako draft in 2005, and eventually the current constitution that we attained in the year 2010. And now we also have another constitutional reform agenda in the name of BBI. My question to my panelists tonight is the political space of this country growing, or we're just going back to those back days?
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Professor, you'll start by answering that, but as I take the final remark here, go ahead.
Thank you, Trevor. My name is Muhammad Onyango. Much has been said about the late President Moi, and I don't want to dwell much on that. My query was, we need to create a thriving economy where people thrive in, and where everybody can be able to have 3 meals in a day. What we're being told about Moi being generous and dishing out money and everything, that is a narrative that I really don't go with. And secondly, by the time Moi was ascending to power, if you check the records, he wasn't owning much. By the time he was retiring in 2002, you know how much he was worth. So my query was that this tendency of saying this person was generous, this person was good, because maybe he gave Mama Mboga 10,000 or he gave 1.5 million to whatever church, it's a narrative that we should avoid as Kenyans. Okay. Yeah, and there's a lot that has been mad with the Moi regime, political assassinations, corruption, and many other things. But I'm a good man. I don't want to talk much about people who have been promoted to glory. But there are also some good things that Of course. But when we try to weigh, we find that the evil overweighs the good.
Now that
in my own assessment.
That will depend on who's speaking. This final line has been neglected. I'll only give one person a chance. You decide amongst yourselves. The young man, go ahead. I'm sure you didn't see Moi, but go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Steve Jr.
Yeah.
I think from the congregation, I may be one of the unlucky guys that never have an opportunity to be or to see Moi when he was in power. But from what I read in records and books, Moi had his good deeds and good bads. And from my point of view, when you look at Moi, who took power from Kenyatta, he was a different person when he took over. There was a lot of expectations when he took over from Kenyatta, because Kenyatta had oppressed a lot of people that time. But immediately when Moi took power, he also assumed the same tendencies and maybe extremely executed what people never expected.
All right.
When you look at 1988 elections, people expected a country that would thrive in democracy. But unfortunately, Moi introduced a queue system, the Mlolongo system, that is in Kiswahili, so that it could give him a simple leeway to still wield power, which is so unfortunate when we talk about democracy.
All right.
Thank you.
We're really pressed for time, so Professor, I'll start with you. There was a question about whether the political space is growing or is it shrinking?
Well, I think it's quite obvious now that with the repeal of Section 2A, President Moi jump-started the road towards multi-partyism. And in the process, we've now had several reforms. The appointment of Guy Commission, he was very particular, and if you care check the history, how the shopping and looking for experts of the constitutional reforms were sourced, you find that they had to get, Guy was not in Kenya at that time, I think it was somewhere in the Singapore, Malaysia, around those regions, and he went looking for the best constitutional experts to be able to give Kenya a better constitution. The tragedy that happened after that, after doing all this groundwork, is that people, when, again, the delegate system can be extremely misleading, that when this draft was developed and went through the Bomas draft, we thought it was the best. And then they took it to Naivasha, they mutilated it. And it was not Moi's fault. It was the fault of those who felt that they should be included in one form or the other. Again, that's political space, people seeking to be inclusive in that political space. And the product of it was what we have now, which culminated eventually in a series of reforms, and again, getting Kenyans fighting against one another. Ethnicity became a major element, despite the fact that the President Moi, at that stage, warned that, all right, we have accepted multipartyism, let it come, but the end result of it will be tribalism. And we saw it in full glare, and that culminated in 2007, the tragedy that we saw. Now, out of that, Mr. Mbicha, you could now see we had the constitutional reform, the product of devolution, spreading the power to the people, to the grassroots, and also spreading the resources to the grassroots.
I've really run out of time. Dr. Ayogo, I'll give you a chance to give just your final remarks.
Well, I have two things to say. I want to thank the good Reverend, because the spirit he has is the spirit Moi has, the spirit of forgiveness. I'm really delighted to hear from him, because Moi also was ready. He said it in Nyayo Stadium that he was forgiving those people, and he's asking them to forgive them.
Forgive him.
He did it from his heart. I knew it. So I want to say thank you, Reverend, and people like you should be talking, because some other people are talking so bad, as if they will go to the grave with hate. It doesn't help, because Moi has already forgiven, and he knows he has forgiven. The other thing I want to correct is my young man here is about the donations. Moi did not start. Moi came from a poor background, very poor, and he experienced poverty. So Moi, his heart always was to help someone. So he started giving even when he was in Lechiko, when he was where. It did not start when he became the president. Those who know him very well know that it started a long time ago, and it went through the presidency, and even when he left the presidency.
Reverend, one line, final one.
Thank you. We didn't want to sanitize, as some people have done, what went wrong or what Moi did wrong, but we wanted to say that in the final analysis, in the whole package, we got what we wanted, and Moi left and went home without any owing us any debt.
Okay.
And I'm saying he owes debt to those who are victims, but but those who are fighting, like him and I, we were not victims, we were combatants.
Okay. All right. That's where we leave it for now. Reverend Timothy Njoya, retired PCA cleric, thank you so much. Reverend Dr. Silas Yego, AIC presiding Bishop Emeritus, and Professor Sam Ongeri, KC Senator, thank you so much for making time. And thank you all for the conversation on the more years. We'll keep you covered wall to wall, all through until the last day. Good night for now. My name is Trevor Mbija.
Fimbo ya nyayo yatuongoza kwenda wapi?